piercing eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we should be live.
We are.
Did you
And
guys
that
get
was
a
live on
notification?
camera. Yeah.
Oh, yay.
Yep. Yeah, we're streaming live.
Live.
Woo, 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 woo,
Everyone
woo.
heard me.
Hi, everybody. Oh, my God.
We're professionals.
Right. So professional. Hello, everybody, and thanks for watching the first episode of Laughing Into the Void, where we interview different comedians and other people involved with the comedy scene. I'm your host, Tom, and also with me is my co-host, Roz. If you like today's show, say hi, Roz. Oh, God. Start over.
This is already going great. Maybe by our next 10 shows, we'll have the intro down.
Right? No, probably not. But if you like today's show, be sure to tune in next week and check us out at district-comedy.com. Today's guest is very special. He's a personal friend of both of us, with 7 or 8 years improvising with us on the Annapolis-based improv troupe Free Range Improv, and my co-host on the TB&J Mike. He is originally from Maine and was recently appointed to alderman of the City Council of Annapolis. Finally, you can see what he's cooking and some lovely pictures of his demo cat Lucy by following his Instagram, Brooks Likes Food. Please join me in welcoming Brooks Schandelmeier. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, now I'm done. Now we can just talk like normal people.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a couple of questions prepared, but feel free to just kind of like get off topic or whatever.
If you want to yell little Goosey Lucy. Lucy Goosey?
Lucy Goosey.
Lucy Goosey. Live your life.
Lucy is a cat, not a goose. But okay. So for people who may be watching that don't know who you are, Brooks, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You grew up in Maine, and you now live in Annapolis. So what first got you into comedy, and what's one of its draws for you?
I first got into comedy because I was unpopular in high school. And so when I went into college, I joined the college improv group because that seemed like a great way to make long-term friends with no drama whatsoever. And it was an uneventful fun time in the college improv group.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved from Maine down to St. Mary's County, Southern Maryland. I didn't know anybody, and so I joined like every single club, and I stuck in the college improv group because one of the people who was like running it kept being mean to me because we both like comics, but we liked different comics, and he took it like as an affront that I liked the poser comics. And I'm not even talking like comedians. I'm talking comic books. We're that dorky.
Oh my God.
I would just like to say I'm glad dudes get gate kept also when it comes to comics. But what qualifies as poser comics?
If you like Deadpool, that's a poser comic because that was like the funny one. Wolverine is poser comic because everyone likes Wolverine. So you have to like some weird, obscure, like independent comic to be into it. And I'm like, well, I like Moon Knight, and he's like, not obscure enough because Spider-Man sometimes appears.
Oh my God.
And so basically he would make fun of me for being a poser, and I'd make fun of him for having more hair on his back than his head because he was a 22-year-old and balding. And then I just kept doing it because I don't know, I got good at it.
Oh, yay. That's good.
Plus I met several girlfriends at the improv.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, like how that's worked for anybody. I have never gotten like any dates or anything from no way.
Stand-up's got like the rock and roll appeal to it, but I feel like improv is an inherently unsexy art. Like there's just something about it. Like if you're a dude especially and you're going into it expecting to meet girls, it's probably not going to happen for you.
And it somehow worked out for me.
Yeah, and it followed the
Or-
thought process that you had, because I was also confused when you said I was unpopular and had no friends in high school, so I'm gonna do improv because that will change it.
That will change it. That's my ticket to being a popular, cool guy.
Well, I
And
think
I'm
you're
like,
pretty popular and cool.
it somehow worked for me.
Yeah, because that's basically what politics is, right? It's just being real popular.
Yeah, it's pretty much being popular and knowing how to talk to people and like listen.
Making
It's
things
that
up as you go along.
make things up as you go along. Yes, and
Yeah.
someone says you're a communist, and I go, yes, and defund the police.
And somebody did say that to you recently, right? Like in a Twitter
Yeah,
exchange or something.
I've been called a communist a couple times already, and it's I kind of wearing it as a badge of honor at this point. And like, I've put forward one bill. I'm sorry to get so much into politics on a city, Annapolis city politics on a comedy podcast, but like, I put forward one bill that makes it easier to unionize, and a bunch of people are like, "You're a communist."
Also, like as a self-described democratic socialist, Brooks is too conservative on a lot of things for my taste. So like, not conservative, but like moderate, too moderate.
Yeah.
You know, like I totally stand by him as a person who should totally be in office, who I trust to drive our great nation not off a cliff, but also he's not exactly on the far left end of the spectrum either.
Nope.
Right.
But it's funny because, like, again, I'm getting all these people who are calling me a commie, and it's just like, well, yeah, but how do you know that?
Well, yeah, and not to, like you said, get too much into politics on a comedy podcast, stream, whatever. But what was the bill?
Oh, so
I'm kind of
it's
curious now.
it's a union bill. So basically, the city only accepts like public employee union petitions in the month of October, which is the rationale was something budget, whatever. And basically I was like, okay, so we're going to make them accept that petition any time of year. And it's a pretty minor bill because it still only takes effect on like the next budgeting cycle. It's more of like giving them a couple months advance in admin work. And I'm now the most dangerous socialist on the Annapolis City Council.
Ooh.
Ooh, paperwork.
Which
Enemy of democracy everywhere.
The paper has caused so many democracies to fall.
God.
Right.
I wish people still read that. But wish people still read, period.
That's
But
the librarian.
yeah, I know. Things are so hard with the libraries being shut down. I mean, people can
That's
still
where
like
books
check out
live.
books and stuff. Yeah, and people can still check them out. It's just I miss being able to help people find where they are on the shelves. Now they just pick up their holds and save a lot of time looking. But yeah, one day we'll be back though. Hopefully soon. But speaking of pandemic, obviously with Free Range you dabbled and you have the experience in improv comedy, but pre-pandemic, you dabbled a little bit in stand-up, right? Like
Yeah.
you said you went to a few open mics, right?
I before the pandemic, I basically jump off and on of stand up, and I've never done anything like serious or been marketed as like here's our featured comic, except for at the Annapolis Nextival of here are our featured comics, and those were arguably my worst shows because our lead-in was Squirrel, and who was this children's entertainer, and we couldn't make fun of Squirrel because Squirrel's jokes landed and ours did not amongst the 4 to 6 year old crowd.
We did get paid in beer, which was great. Unfortunately, one of the three of us performing comics is a recovered alcoholic. So I had to buy him ice cream. So thank you for coming out.
So that's awesome. You get paid extra then.
I guess.
But like, Before
Yeah.
that, though, I'd done stand up in DC and Baltimore and Philadelphia. I did it out in Chicago, and this is again just like open mics, go out, make friends, hang out. And the issue was though, Annapolis isn't a big stand up town, so like for me, I'd have to
No,
go
not at
either
all.
out to DC or Baltimore, hang out forever long, make the connections, get moved forward on the list when you actually signed up on the list, because otherwise, what's the damn point of the list? Um, so like I just couldn't do it as much as I wanted to. And actually the Zoom mics gave me the opportunity to actually like hang out, do it, and kind of hone it and hone joke structure. So thanks.
That's great. That was what my next question was going to be, was like, what is, the virtual ones versus the in-person ones? I know for me that there have been like some distinct advantages, to being able to do it on Zoom, but also, there's some stuff you miss.
I miss the instant feedback of live mics, and I also think that like 3 minutes on Zoom is like 4.5 minutes at a live show. Just because of that feedback, the pause for laughs, it doesn't feel too weird and awkward. But on a comedy online, you just kind of gotta go for it. But like, I I still think it's fine. I had known some comics who were like, I'm never going to do this. Of course, that was back when they thought like this was only going to be a month or two lockdown, and then they kind of gave in. And now most people I know are into it. Like it's a different style a bit, but it's fun. I think it gives you like an opportunity to really workshop some new stuff and just really bang out things and see what can work on certain levels. Because if I have to drive out to another city, get everything worked, I'm not going to throw out some idea that I had like 10 minutes before that I think is funny, but maybe won't land there. I'm going to try and spend every minute honing, and it's going to make my shit a little more predictable, a little more less adventurous. Here, I'm just like, oh, I had this idea 10 minutes before. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, who cares? I just went to my living room or my office. It's not a far distance to travel.
Yeah. It's like risk versus reward sort of.
I was gonna say, like, it's also a very like encouraging atmosphere because it's mostly other performers. So people are either actively rooting for you to be funny, or they're too distracted by their own nerves to be listening to what you're saying. So it's just kind of like there's not like the hinge that there is in live performance, where it's like you feel like you're going in front of all these experienced comics who are in the scene or whatever, and you might be the outsider. And it's nice because it can help you focus more on the comedy and less on the context in a way.
Oh, 100%. Like, I remember one of my first mics that I was doing out in Baltimore, basically like some of the routine people that would go in there, they were actually really hostile to anybody new, which I frankly didn't quite understand. Yeah, cat, come in here. My cat is outside just meow, meow. So we're getting a live action shot. So guest star Lucy. You'd get like these comics who have been there forever, and they're really hostile to the newbies, and it's just something I never quite understood. Like, you aren't losing your time, like you're still farther up in the list for me. If anything, I'm going to be last because the host doesn't know who I am yet. And it just it's bizarre. I think in this, people put their egos aside a little bit more. I think there's a little bit more of a nurturing environment. Like the TB&J mic, which is like the one I co-host with you, is probably one of the best comedic communities I've been part of. Like, we set up these friendships and we help workshop jokes with each other. And even like some of the other mics I've hopped on have been pretty supportive. Just the like other people have joined ours, and so we try to help out and support theirs. And I like the community that's building around
it.
Yeah, I think the community is cool. And then you actually touched on something a while back, which reminded me about a real anxiety that I have, which is the whole like timing difference of like, X number of minutes on Zoom. Like 3 minutes is 4.5 minutes in real life because you're pausing for all the laughs. And I'm just like, ready for things to open up again and for me to like go to my first live open mic and be like, nope, this timed exactly the same because nobody's laughing. And glad I practiced it as a monologue with no reaction at all.
I mean, I'm looking forward to when things open back up, of like trying to jump back into live performance. I do think there are elements you can't quite capture on Zoom that are worth the extra hassles and all this other stuff. But like, I think this is a really good normalcy thing for me. Like, I look forward to doing these mics every single week. I'm really excited. I'm sitting there writing any little joke that pops into my head in either a journal or on a Google Doc that I got up on my office computer, and it makes something feel a little bit more natural in this pandemic, which I'm always chomping at the bit for, you know?
Yeah,
Also,
and I think, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, as comedians, we're generally isolated, miserable bastards. And the thing about this
Accurate.
pandemic is it makes you want to reach out and touch someone, but without exchanging droplets. So I think it's been a really nice way for comedians to be like, friend?
Right. Oh, thank God. Like, when we started doing these, like, my fiance has been so much less fed up with me, because previously I'd be testing every dumb joke I had on her, and she'd do the polite.
I do that to Chris too.
And now she's like, oh, thank
Yeah.
God, it's his comedy night. He'll be quiet and leave me alone for like 2 hours.
It's interesting that you say that, because I guess am not quiet at all while I'm doing the mics and keep the whole house up. But yeah, I mean, I think that's generally been like a lot of the consensus that I've been seeing on that topic is like, is it as good as a live mic? No, not really. But is it a good substitute for now? Yes. And I've actually been really but I really want to keep doing the comedy stuff that I've started online, even when things start opening up. Obviously, I want to go to live mics too, but one of the things that's been really cool about it being online is it's a very low entry cost barrier for somebody who wants to host their own show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got a Zoom subscription, slap it up there. So that's cool. Huh? Once a month?
Yeah, can you spare $25 a month? You're in. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
I see that as a really positive thing for the comedy scene in general. I do hope that continues. I think that this has let a lot of people who were on the fence about trying it, but were afraid of like hitting the open mic scene or any of the other stand-up scenes in their area, or maybe they're just too far out of normal stand-up scenes to really get involved in it, that it gives them that opportunity to try it. Like one of the people who just started jumping on our mics, AJ, Bangor, Maine, middle of nowhere area, no stand-up scene. Like, I've looked for them actively there when I was visiting home in Maine.
God.
There's nothing. Like, all the open mics are like, just play the guitar.
It's just a campfire in the woods with like 3 bears and a squirrel.
Basically, exactly. And bears are able to cut right to the core of what you are insecure about yourself. So like, you open your startup joke and the person goes, do you have issues with your parents? Yeah.
Oh God. They're so mean. But yeah, so that's my spiel on that, but kind of on the note of comedy. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, even though we talked about politics a little bit already, just because I'm interested in, like, have you found that, you know, there have been any intersections yet between like your comedy and your political life?
So one of the things I actually credit improv with helping me get as far as I have, because it keeps you on your toes, knowing how to adjust. You get a lot of really weird out of left field questions, either because you're just talking to someone who a little more eccentric, or they just have like a niche issue that they care about, or you're dealing with like bad faith arguments from people and knowing how to adjust to those. Or it's maybe just like learning how to be fun and keep people loose around each other so you can actually work together. The lone Republican on the city council, and I have actually struck up a little bit of a friendship because we have a bit of a similar sense of humor, and that's helped me actually get through a couple things that I've been trying to work on. And he's more into it, and he also like learned to listen to people and figure out, okay, what are they coming from with this point, and can I take my issues and adjust it and rephrase it on the fly to get them to buy into those issues too. One of my issues that I really care about is like trying to bring municipal broadband into Annapolis, essentially build our own high-speed internet infrastructure. And I've kind of gotten some more conservative people on board by going like, this is a barrier to business, lack of internet access, especially during this pandemic when online commerce, online retail, online marketing is the most important thing.
And not everyone can pay their internet bill right now, just saying.
Exactly. And there are a lot of people in the Downtown Business Partnership, which is like a pretty conservative group because it's like a bunch of business owners. They don't want anything to do with like extra regulations. They're like, no, this is our thing. And they're having difficulty marketing online, adapting their stores online. And I've gotten a couple of them on board with the municipal broadband idea because they're like, yeah, this would even post-pandemic be a good reduction in our overhead and would help our businesses kind of expand.
Yeah. So you're investing in people and in business at the same time. It's like kind of like that yes and improv principle.
Exactly. Although I think the best example of yes anding in political history is going on right now with Rudy Giuliani and like the Trump suing each of these different states, where it's like, well, there was voter fraud and it was aliens doing it, and it's only in the black cities. And
I mean, I do love how I think Four Seasons Total Landscaping is just the epitome of someone just threw it out there and they're like, well, fuck, we have to go with it. All right, yes, we meant to do it here. And Rudy's going to come out to talk at a friendly business. Yes.
It's God. The most beautiful. God dang, if it weren't for like all the fashy, terrible things and people being hurt, I would miss this Veep inspired administration. Like one of the funniest bits I've ever seen on Veep was Jonah Ryan's we're against Muslim math because we use Arabic numerals. And then 2 weeks later, someone from the Trump campaign, like some spokesperson was like, and we're against these Arabic numbers being taught in schools.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Just this.
I didn't know that.
So Roman numerals only because the Romans never did anything problematic, like killed our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Exactly. And that's why I think we need to bring Christian numerals as their own thing. Mm-hmm. Everything is just a fish drawing. But each fish drawing has a different meaning, and you'll learn the different fish meanings.
Oh, okay. So it's
Romans
like
killed my Lord and Savior.
That was a terrible joke.
Caesar.
That was a terrible joke.
It's like
it's like okay.
Aquatic abacus, kind of. Like you get 3 fishes, an octopus, and a piece of seaweed. That's 30.
So I actually grew up with a really conservative, really religious grandparents, and they kind of bullied my mom into sending me to a Christian camp. And I tried to do like a comedy thing there, but my entire set was how the Bible is an objectively terrible book. It's got terrible plot structure, and the narrator is very unreliable. And each of these characters come in and out, and there's no arc whatsoever. And finally, the only interesting character they kill. And then there's still like 3/4 of the book left to go.
Just like break it down as a literary work.
It's so
basic components.
And they did not like those jokes at all.
At a Christian camp, they didn't like making fun of the Bible.
They did not.
Well, have you seen it the other way though? Have you seen like, I don't know, politics into comedy? I mean, the more I think about it, it kind of the skills, the social skills at least, that you need to have from like improv or comedy translate well into politics. I mean, if you can handle a heckler, like a debate should be no problem, right? But anything as far as like politics into comedy.
To tell you the truth, like this current administration has kind of made me, with very few exceptions, hate political comedy. Like there are a couple exceptions where it ends up working out. But now like every single debate sketch on SNL, I'm just like, you guys are normalizing the fascist creep a little bit by just making him look like some goober. And no, he's a monster. And God, I know that's like totally shutting down what you were trying to go for.
No, it makes
terrible
sense.
interviewee.
And, no, you're fine. I mean, I think too, part of what happened with SNL was that, they couldn't not do a lot of those sketches, I feel, because in the previous, like with the famous like Tina Fey as Sarah Palin sketches, those just did so incredibly successfully that it's like when you're now presented with, the amount of political fodder that they've been given, like, what do you do other than try and recreate that same success? But because there's just so much of it, I think the redundancy is starting to become apparent.
Everything, and it's hard with this current administration because half the stuff being done just almost comes off as parody. Like Veep ended at exactly the right time because everything else that they would do would just go, well, Trump's already did it.
Yeah.
So Trump beat you to the punch. It's like the administration's become this.
Oh, I was sorry. I was just gonna say, like, it's interesting too, talking about like SNL basically getting painted into the corner and being like forced to do political sketches like that. Like Tina Fey had no choice. The public demanded that she play Sarah Palin, and she did it perfectly. But like, it's also like because SNL is such an institution with history, in some ways they're very limited with what they can do. And I think one of the cool things about the comedy scene kind of moving online out of no choice whatsoever is that it's kind of paved the way for some innovation, because nothing's an institution. Like what works at one open mic online for an unknown comedian might not work at another open mic for a known comedian, and even professional comedians. I think it was Doug Benson did like an online stand-up thing that people could pay to see, and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's kind of breaking through some of that. So maybe that'll freshen up our political comedy a little bit, hopefully.
I think you include more voices and you're inevitably going to have, those fresh perspectives that people are looking for.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that kind of combine the two worlds, and I'm actually trying to emulate that, because why create something new when you can blatantly rip off other people that do it better? The Wisconsin Democrats did a bunch of stand-up fundraiser, and they had like a lot of really great comics in there, and also some locals. So like Sarah Silverman was on there, Mike Birbiglia came in, and they had just a bunch of these other comics from like road comics who are basically making their living, like going from club to club to club, to these really big headliners that people instantly recognize and know and are willing to like go out of their way to go and see. And so now I'm trying to do that for one of my own fundraisers with some of the people that hop on the mics. You guys are in, right?
Yay! Yeah.
We'll be there.
Fundraiser open mic / roast. That's what it's going to be.
The Democratic Party.
Oh God. Putting the party back in.
Roasts for my bachelor party. Do we emulate the Pat roast but make it better because we don't have to worry about breakdowns?
No, because we still have to worry about your approval numbers, buddy.
That's true.
It will be live streamed. But yeah, no. But like going back to kind of what we were saying about like, the online thing, giving people, these connections and voices and platforms that they wouldn't otherwise have like explored doing. One of the things that's been kind of cool about the mic has been when we have international people coming in. That's been kind of cool.
That's been awesome. Getting the Canadians in, like Desiree, Kelly, Camillo, which like I know that's only just across a pretty easy to get across border, but we've also had comedians come in from like Russia, one from Indonesia, which was amazing, India, and it's super neat getting like kind of different perspectives on these voices. And Russian comedy is weird.
I mean, it's a different flavor. Just like cultures, you know, different foods have different flavors. I think the same applies for comedy.
Just like genetically programmed to be funnier than most people. Like, is that just like a thing? Like every Canadian is like the funniest person ever.
I think it's built into them.
True so far for me.
It's like their second puberty. So when they turn like 18, 19, it starts growing on them. And then they're finally like really funny by 22.
Okay.
Because growing up in Maine, I knew a lot of like under 18 Canadians, and they were not funny at all. A lot of hot jokes.
Well, yeah, that I can imagine. But okay, so what I'm hearing though overall is that as far as like politics into comedy, we're not going to get a set from you soon that is like my political stand-up.
No, mostly because
that would be making a joke out of your line of work.
I'd be making a joke of what I do for money, and I'm horrendously insecure. I'm just worried people will figure out I'm not useful and get rid.
Also, alderman humor seems like a very niche market.
Yeah, it's like this guy wants to cut the budget of Parks and Rec.
Well, Lot 73 is zoning code 4271A, but I think it should be zoning code 4217C. You know what I mean?
I've heard of down zoning, but this is ridiculous.
Oh my God. And now we have the set. We'll just do that.
And now we'll just have a set of me like talking about zoning puns.
Well, okay, then if not political, how would you describe your own sense of humor?
I like hyperbole a lot. I get really into hyperbolic statements, especially when I would do live performance and improv, because I always thought an easy way, but also like a really fun, clever way to like let you kind of build off was to take things and really amp them up to first their logical extreme, and then absolutely illogical extremes. So I like really escalating, like getting into big fights over Chinese food or whoopie pies. Like my fiance and I's worst fight was because she likes Pennsylvania whoopie pies and I like Maine whoopie pies, and that makes her a heathen and an abomination. So that was a terrible example, but it's things like that I get really into. And I've also, as I've actually gotten older and gotten into like an engagement, I get a lot of really good material just out of some like the small things of relationships that people can kind of ignore. Yeah, most people can kind of like ignore here and there.
Getting engaged has been the best for my comedy.
It has, because it gives me the best. No matter what happens with my comedy, I have the greatest story of my engagement, and it always gets laughs. I totally surprised Chelsea when I proposed. And so we walk into the house. I pull the ring out of my pocket. I'm really nervous. I'm sweating a little bit. I drop down to one knee and open the ring and go, "Will you marry me?" And then she answers, "No way." The worst surprise answer. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna go fill my pockets with rocks and walk into the bay now.
And then she's like, "No way."
It's so easy to imagine her saying that though, because she's such a chill person. That would just be like a genuine reaction.
That is no exaggeration of what occurred, except for the, well, I'm gonna fill my pockets with rocks. So I'm just standing there right after she said "no way," and then she's just doing this speechless, and I'm like, So can I get an answer here?
We're doing this, or
We doing this, or again, the Bay Bridge is right over there. It's an easy trip
Oh
for
my
me.
God.
oh man.
Okay.
Suicide.
Well, so that's your sense of humor. But as far as like preparing, I know you mentioned that like you'll do like 10 minutes maybe of prep before the mics.
It depends on the day. So there's sometimes it depends on the day. So there are some times where I'm actually like really good about writing out the sets like over the week, trying to really iron them out and like get things streamlined. Other times like I'll start working on the material like that morning and kind of write it down. And then sometimes I'm like, well, I had a crazy busy day, and instead of writing my jokes like an adult, I played Call of Duty. And oh shit, I got to sign off after this map and go jump on the mic I'm a co-host of.
That's why you're late. Damn.
Oh, you're one of those people that still plays Call of Duty?
Heck yeah, I'm getting back into the Call of Duty.
Duty.
Duty. I am so bad at it though. I've gotten so bad at video games. I'm competing against like a bunch of Mountain Dewed up 16-year-olds, and they beat me every single time. It's embarrassing.
If they told you they were 16, then they're probably like 12.
Oh my god, I know. I'm getting beat up by a bunch of
Not to like
12-year-olds.
dig the nail deeper into the coffin, because you already weren't feeling great about that. But
Yeah.
It's like high school all over again, getting bullied by 12-year-olds.
yeah.
Oh man.
But any like, I don't want to say like formal writing exercises, because I don't have anything like that either. And I also feel like sometimes, at least for me, I don't know if it's different for you, it doesn't make a difference. Like sometimes I'll spend the entire week and I'll be able to like actually dedicate time to being like, oh, I thought of this premise at work. How can I like break that down into a joke? And then is when it's like, I have like 2 ideas floating around, and then I'll just kind of improv off of those. And I feel like there hasn't really been a consistent through line as far as like when I prepare, my jokes are much better. When I don't prepare, my jokes are not as good. That hasn't really been a trend that I've seen. So
for me,
what do you think?
What I've seen for me is if I either get a lot of prep time to really nail down exactly what I've written and exactly how I've written it out, it works. Or if I'm just like not totally coming off the cuff, but like if I've actually tried to write something down in the hour before, so everything is very fresh, they work out. It's that weird in between where nothing works out for me because I'm kind of confident in the material. I'm kind of not confident in the material. So I need to keep like checking, and I can't like those are the ones when I start floundering. And like an example for that is the joke that I love the premise of, and I'm still trying to work on nailing it, is the I'm stress eating a whole rotisserie chicken out of the trunk of my car in the parking lot of a Giant. And it's a funny idea, and it's a funny premise that's actually happened to me, but I just can never quite nail the end of it. And I think it's because like I've never either A, really sat down and written and ironed it out completely, or B, I've never gone like, and I also just didn't write it like 10 minutes before I jumped onto the mic, running in between like errands and like Call of Duty. Yeah, Call of Duty. But like, I think something that the downside to some of this like online only open mics though, actually this isn't criticism of the mics itself, it's just something that I'm starting to notice in lockdown. Nothing new is happening to me. I've hit my kind of wall for like new material, and like that's why one of my jokes is just me going like I'm a terrible partner because I have no new interesting things to say. It's basically just, so what happened at work today? Well, I got bullied on Call of Duty by a 12-year-old, so pretty tough day, I guess.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, too, you really have to get weirdly abstract with your humor right now, because it's like no one wants to hear another joke about a work meeting on Zoom. Like, we get it. It's a sucky platform. Funny stuff occasionally happens. It's awkward. But at the same time, like if you mention work meeting in Zoom in your stand-up, you can just feel everybody turning their mind off and just like not listen to you anymore. It doesn't matter how good the joke is. It's like so stale at this point. And it's kind of like we're all having the same experiences. So you have to go even that much farther and make it even more abstract than you normally would, which in some ways makes the material like less relatable.
It's why I got so excited when someone tried to pick a fight with me on outdoor karaoke. I'm like, yes, a new experience. The dumbest reason to almost pick a fight with someone at outdoor karaoke. I wouldn't let this random drunk dude sing Wagon Wheel with me.
That's so just to give it some context, I helped organize a socially distanced auction and raffle for the Auto Bar, a local bar here in Baltimore that is struggling like all local bars are right now because no one's helping them.
Auto Bar.
And they have everything set up socially distanced. You're sitting at tables, and they're playing around with this area mic for open mic karaoke. And I see Brooks get up to sing Wagon Wheel, and then I see this guy get right in his face. And then I see the guy like, I see Brooks like shake his head. Then I see the guy rip his glasses off and chuck them as hard as he physically can into the chain link fence and do the international symbol for "You wanna go, bro," which is like.
It's like, you want to go? And I'm very polite. He's like, come on. He like this drunk off his mind dude like comes rolling in.
He'd have to be, yeah.
Comes rolling out on his bicycle. That's the number one way to come rolling in while drunk. Gets like right up here. Is like, let's sing together. I love this song. I'm like, no, because you're maskless, and please back up away, sir. So I kind of like take a couple steps back, and he gets like right up here again, like, come on, let's sing again. And I do like a very gentle like, no, back away from me, please. And then he throws his sunglasses and just does the "you want to go." And like I think people think that I would be good in a fight because I'm like decaf coffee.
Because you're half bear.
Yeah, I'm like decaf coffee though. I look like I could get the job done, but I don't. And one of us is going to end up asleep later, and it's probably me because I'm going to get knocked out.
Well, I will also say at the Auto Bar, you're probably safer than at most bars would be, because it's kind of like, and I hate to mention the blue collar comedy tour, but they are the kind of bar staff that does enjoy bouncing for a reason. And so they bounced the guy super fast, especially because he hit one of like my friend Chuck, who's a bartender there, who's like the nicest guy ever. He hit him with his bike when he threw his bike, but they threw him out really fast, and he kept trying to come back and like bargain his way back in. And they kept being like, no, man, you gotta leave.
Oh, he was waiting like at the entrance of the bar when I was like leaving and trying to get some pizza from this food truck. And we look at each other while I'm holding my pizza, and I'm like, I don't want to drop this pizza and fight this guy. So can I get hit and run back to my car and not mess up this pizza?
I'll sacrifice myself for the pizza.
It was really good pizza. It was definitely worth at least a couple hits in the face.
I've just never so aggressively wanted to karaoke sing Wagon Wheel with a stranger before.
I mean, under normal circumstances, when the wagon wheel gets into you, you just want to join in on that. And normal circumstances, I welcome that brotherhood of wagon wheel.
Yeah.
But just not during a pandemic, guys. Like, if he had been in a mask, you know what? I would have allowed it. But he was maskless. He was like right there. Well, he was a short fellow, so he was like right here. So like all his droplets were actually probably just going into my chest. But still, we have to be safe.
Yeah, you gotta watch the drops these days.
Gotta watch the drops.
But you know, the Auto Bar staff is nothing but consummate professionals, and they stepped in and kept things safe for us, as they always do. So.
And I tested negative for COVID later.
Yay!
Yay!
And the fundraiser ended up going well, right?
Yeah, it went really well. We did well at the bar that day. We did well We did well with the raffle and the online auction, but it's just with everything. I mean, my boyfriend owns a bar. It's like time will tell. I mean, there's been the live entertainment industry and bar industry has taken the biggest hit for all of us in this pandemic. They have been hit the hardest and the worst, and they have gotten next to no help. Which I'm gonna get off my soapbox now because it's not really funny. But
no, like I was
That's
a
okay.
bartender. I was a bartender and actually got laid off at the very beginning of the pandemic because indoor dining was not safe. And so like during the summer and actually during the winter, like I just bundle up and I'll eat outside and get like a bunch of carry out. But like you can't do it safely. And I think the industry has stepped up and like trying to keep its customers safe and trying to make stuff work, but there's been literally no support for it. One of the frustrating things for me has been though, like all of a sudden these like former colleagues and servers I used to be working with who like barely graduated high school are now like more qualified than the CDC at predicting COVID.
Oh, wow.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, well, you barely passed your high school chemistry class, but all of a sudden you understand that COVID is a hoax and that you can solve it by just drinking mouthwash. So,
which also, interestingly enough, contains alcohol and will kill your brain cells. So,
I
a little
got
cause and
Sweet.
effect situation going on there.
the most bizarre thing for me from actual medical professionals during COVID was I went to the dentist. This is my first time in the dentist for 5 years, but I finally had dental insurance. I'm like, by God, I have to use this because everything hurts. And so I go to the dentist. They're like, all right, so to deal with COVID, you're going to swish this hydrogen peroxide in your mouth. And after like I do it and spit it out, they're like, yeah, we don't know if it does anything or not, but it seems like it could be safe. You're medical professionals. You should know this better.
Also, say that to me before I like swish anything in my mouth would also be helpful. This probably doesn't do anything, but we want to see a gargle.
Swish this stuff that like makes you feel like you're going to vomit in your mouth, and it may or may not do anything. I don't know. By the way, we're recording this, and if you throw up, we're going to put it on the internet.
Views.
My dentist was weirdly aggressive about making me come in for an appointment during all this. And I'm just like, no, your job is literally to put your hands in people's mouths all day. I can't think of a less safe thing to do right now. And I kept telling them no. And then every few months, I kept getting a call. So I just started scheduling appointments and then canceling them in advance so they'll leave me alone.
Oh.
So like I was dealing with some like really severe tooth pain, and because I hadn't been to the dentist in like 5 years, I was really worried, like, okay, your luck is finally run out and you need like a super root canal or something. Turns out I just stress grind my teeth, and this was like the build up to the presidential during a pandemic. So like it's not even when I sleep, I've increasingly noticed. It's just like whenever I turn on the news, which I have to for my job, I'm just like,
yeah, you are
to the point where I've
definitely
ground my canines flat. This is what this stress has done to me. But I was actually like kind of excited to go to the dentist again, because last time I went to the dentist was to get my wisdom teeth removed, and they gave me laughing gas, which is I enjoyed it way too much. So they put me on the laughing gas, and he pulls my back wisdom tooth, and then he pokes the other one. I'm like, wait, he just pulled a tooth, and he's poking another wisdom tooth. He pulled the wrong one. So I make him stop and get like his forceps out of my mouth. He's like, you pulled the wrong tooth. Like, no, I'm a professional and you're intoxicated. Go back to the sleep.
Little more gas for you, Grandpa.
Fair point, good sir.
It's like,
oh my God.
Like laughing gas. Brooks was like, okay. Like, had I been sound of mind, I'd be like, how dare you accuse me of not knowing what I'm talking about? I am a straight white man, and I said this with confidence. But now laughing gas, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I
So if we,
remember getting the other After Effects because I was your roommate at the time.
Yeah,
And that
buddy.
was basically where the fried Uncrustable was born, was being snowed in while Brooks is like on whatever they gave him to deal with the pain from his wisdom teeth being removed. God.
And it gave me this brilliant idea. Tom comes in and there's like a snowstorm swirling around. Like 2 feet of snow fell that night. And Tom's like, I'm gonna eat an Uncrustable. And I sit up from the couch, an ice pack of snow upon my face, and go, you want to fry that? And it was the greatest culinary thing invented.
And while I was there in that house, yes.
we'll take that qualifier.
Oh my god, it also reminded me of like, yeah, all the qualifiers. But no, it actually did kind of remind me of like, there's always like that weird challenge on every season of Top Chef that becomes like the talk of the season. And like, I remember there was one episode where they were like, you have to like make a gourmet meal out of stuff you find in a vending machine. And it's like guy made something with like flaming hot Cheetos as like the breading as he fried it. Something so good. At least it looked good. I didn't get to eat it. We haven't reached that level of technology yet for
flaming hot Cheetos as breading for fried chicken is amazing. If people take nothing from this podcast except for that.
Well, speaking of which, I know that you have the like food centered Instagram, and you were just on the Everything's Going to Be Fine baking show, right? So
yes, with Kelly.
You want to talk about your experience on that a little bit?
Yeah,
Mr. Chef?
That was actually really fun. So with food, my dad taught me how to cook, and that's kind of been like the big father-son bonding thing. And we actually have like this cast iron pan passed down from my great-grandfather to my grandfather, dad, to me, and the same like this old butcher's knife like made in the old country of Germany that we recently excavated. So like I love cooking. I think it's a great way to like kind of communicate with your past, with others, learn new cultures. And Kelly Zemnikis, a comic out of Toronto, has a baking show called It'll Be Fine done on YouTube. And we got to make what were supposed to be rainbow cookies. But I am a terrible baker. I can like cook, fry, grill, anything, but baking, like I always have these holdups because you have to do everything sciencey and precise versus like if you're doing a stir fry, you just add the right amount. And you know what the right amount is. Once you taste the right amount, you'll know. So I ended up goofing, and they both looked just like tie-dye cookies more than anything else. But it was super cool because like you're cooking and interviewing and just like kind of hanging out. And it's kind of a neat way to format these because like on top of the quasi interview going on and asking each other questions, it's, you're making cookies.
Maybe we'll change this one up and we'll like have, okay, now we're also going to make origami cranes while we try and interview people, or just some unnecessarily difficult task. Because I think that baking is super hard, especially, compared to normal cooking. It's like if you are off by a little bit for a measurement in baking, it's like the whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Plus, like the recipe we gave was like, do this thing correctly. And that's all the advice it gave us. And to get like the rainbow layers looking exactly right, they had to be done in a very specific way. And neither of us did them correctly, but especially me. I did not do it correctly at all.
So it was like the technical challenge on the Great British Baking Show, and you guys both came in last.
Yeah. It reminds me of Gordon Ramsay did this thing, and he's like, I'm going to yell this very complex thing to an amateur chef, and neither of us gets to see what the other is doing. And then I'm going to make fun of how you cannot cook like a 5-star beef Wellington, even though it's like your second time in a kitchen.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Well, like, it was a lot of fun, and I do recommend watching her show. Like, it's enjoyable because you get to watch like baking recipes and interviews with comics. Like Ralph Anthony was on the show, Desiree was on the show. So like a couple of the comics that come into the TB&J and do like a lot of the district comedy events have been on there. It's neat. It's a good way to kind of get to know people when they're not doing their stand-up character.
Yeah. And I do like that. I feel like I've met so many cool people through the open mics, but then that's like another layer to it too. It's like, what are you like outside the open mic? Or like even just like, are you actually my friend when you're not telling jokes at me? Which is like mostly just my insecurity talking. But I think that like being able to set up some kind of activity to also hang out with these people is like another added layer to the benefit cake of Zoom comedy. And we were talking about a baking show. Now we're talking about Zoom cake. So it all ties together.
I think we should rename this Zoom Cake.
Wait, what?
We should rename this podcast Zoom Cake.
Oh my God.
I kind of like laughing into the void.
Okay.
A little
That's
bit.
also a good one.
In space, no one can hear you scream, but they might be able to hear you laugh. You don't know.
Oh,
That's never been explored. Maybe love is recepted more than desperation.
I need to talk about like sending things into space, how we should stop doing that, because like we keep trying to talk to aliens, but I feel like they'll be inherently hostile based upon when an advanced species encounters a less advanced species.
Well, I kind of want to bring it up now, but if you guys saw, I had a Facebook post while this was still just like a thought, and I was asking people like what they would title a comedy live stream podcast, whatever, if they could. And there were some pretty good suggestions in there. I'm trying to remember some of the good ones, but my brain.
The one that made me laugh was never been done before.
Oh yeah, I think that was Daniel Flores, who comes to the mic a lot. So that's always appreciated. But yeah, for now it's laughing into the void because rebranding's a bitch, and I already coded the website, and
it's a great
password to get back into the admin side. So
it's a great name. I like it.
Yay! All right. Well, we're almost at the end of our time, so I want to give you the opportunity, Brooks, if there's any last things that you want to say, if you want to plug either your Alderman page or your Instagram or whatever mics or events you have coming up next.
I would actually like to plug our open mic, the TB&J mic, every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on Displaced Comedians. And it's every Thursday. It's a great time. We welcome new comics, newcomers, veterans, experienced people. So please come check us out, do a 3 to 4 minute set, and have a great time. And laugh about Uncrustables.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth and creamy. Like the filling of an Uncrustable.
Like the filling of an Uncrustable. We're sponsored by Smuckers, by the way.
Oh my God. I wish. I want that money. But yeah, otherwise that's it. Thanks for everybody who watched the first episode. Thank you, Brooks, for being our first guest, and Roz, of course, for being my co-host on this. And now we're gonna watch me struggle for a little bit while I try and figure out how to turn off the live feed.